Hello, I'm back again with a new video, and this time I'm not alone. We are three. It's Stephan, and Liam,
Yeah,
and John Lennon, and a naked lady.
it's rather a naked robot, I would
Okay.
say. It's a gender fluid entity that is obviously angry.
Okay, and you're in an inner office.
I'm in my not in my office due to Corona, but in a office. Yeah, I'm not at home.
Yeah, because
Because that's not how I live. If I was at home, this would look like an Oasis museum. But
Well, Stefan is not just an Oasis fan. He's editor of the German music magazine Musikexpress,
Yep.
and now he's making he's advertising his biggest rival in the background. On the
that
Rolling
is true.
Stones.
That's like Noel featuring on the Gorillaz track.
Yeah, of course. Okay, and we know each other since, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. I'm not sure. I was managing a band back then, and you
A
were.
little known band. A little known band.
Very
They were
little.
sometimes compared to Oasis, were
Yes,
they not?
yes. But I've never talked on my channel so far what I'm doing professionally, so nobody knows what
Okay, I
I'm
will
doing.
keep my mouth
It's not a secret, but it never came up until now. But so just for context, we know each other because you were the editor of Musikexpress back then, and I was manager of that little known group.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're also a big Oasis fan.
Yes, I'm here to officially admit that.
Yeah. When did you discover them?
Well, this was not a band that was to be discovered. I mean, given our age, I think we're pretty much the same age. They were just all over. There was just no way of. There was not this one day where Oasis. You did not discover them in a record store, they were just so huge from the very beginning. Initially, I was not. I think it's the same with you, as far as I remember. I was not a big fan of theirs in the beginning. Like I was back then. You had to like take sides, and I was very much on the Blur side, which I found far more interesting musically, more diverse, more envelope pushing. I didn't like all the. I mean, Oasis were basically just ripping off any other 70s or 60s rock song. So I found that at the time very derivative and boring. I thought that they were a highly overrated band, especially in comparison to the ever-changing Blur. So I hated them with a passion.
I never hated them, but I was a bit like you. I think I bought Parklife and Definitely Maybe around the same time, and at that time you had to make a decision. You couldn't be a fan of both.
No.
And I was like you. At first, I liked Parklife more because, as you said, it's more diverse and maybe a bit more playful. And
yeah, it's also. I mean, we were all children before, right? So Blur were very. In many ways they're quite similar to Queen also, because they both had these music hall songs.
I hate Queen.
I know, but they both have these these comedy elements that make it more accessible for a child that Oasis hardly had. I mean, maybe Dixie's Dinner or so, but I mean, nothing that was ever so bluntly ridiculous or silly. Like, I don't know, even a song like Country House, was more child friendly, I would say. So it was an easier transgression from childhood to adolescence, I would say. I was also 94. I was still too young. I was not going out at the time. It was not that I had access to.
I was like 14 or 15.
Far too young, so it was just around. But I was not drunk in a club. Pumping my fists for cigarette and alcohol. So I was. So that all of that came quite late. I think I stumbled across, what was it? I think it was. I had the master plan at some point, I think, because I think it was for sale, and I felt like, okay, you just gotta own one Oasis record, otherwise it's ridiculous. You're not a 90s child if you don't. And there were some moments on it, and then I don't know, in a similar way, I was in a record store, and there was just a chance of listening to Definitely Maybe. And I don't think until then I ever heard Rock and Roll Star, right? Because it was not a single. I only knew the singles, which I didn't really like. But it was just like the first seconds of Rock and Roll Star that just, I don't know, I just felt like this is a lightning bolt going straight through me, and an electrifying experience. And I knew I'm falling for this band very hard at this very moment, and everything else will disappear around me. And
for me it was a bit like that, but it came sooner. I switched from Blur to Oasis even before Masterplan, I think around Morning Glory. And I'm one of the few people who thinks that Great Escape is a great album. You know, I think it's probably, I even prefer it to Parklife, which most people don't. But and to this day, What's the Story, Morning Glory it was never my favorite Oasis album. Definitely Maybe was always my favorite album. But somehow around that time, when this battle of Britpop happened, and again I prefer Country House to Roll With It.
Yes.
But for some reason, at that time it dawned on me that I'm more Oasis guy. Maybe because, you know, I'm also from kind of a working class background.
Right.
And
that's the whole thing. Yeah. That's the whole thing. I mean, Oasis have a story. They have a hugely relatable story. Even if if you're not from the working class, it's still a fascinating story. And it's something that Blur did not have. You know, they were all kind of well-off art school kids. You know, from good families. Not to my knowing any abusive alcoholic dads. And Oasis have this classic Hollywood fairy tale from rags to riches. That's just
I think Damon Albarn himself said so. I think he said that he thinks Oasis is the better band than Blur because they have a story.
Yeah,
they are about something.
Yeah,
definitely.
So it's much easier to be an Oasis fan. You know, I would still argue that Blur is a far superior band musically, you know, artistically, but it's just so much more fun to be an Oasis fan.
Yeah,
there's
stories.
There's so many legends. There's so many stories. So many incredible anecdotes. And I'd be hard pressed to find 5 interesting Blur stories. You know.
Yeah, but what's your favorite crazy rock and roll story from Oasis?
Oh wow!
Or do you have a top 3 or something like that?
Top 3. Well, the split itself is just spectacular. You know, of Liam apparently allegedly throwing a plum at his brother, and
I don't believe that. That sounds like a joke.
Yeah,
but
it's
a great
story. Plum. It's just too good to be true. And there's this once they got caught on this ferry. I think in the Netherlands.
When they went to Amsterdam, yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So that of course.
Where everyone got arrested except Noel, and he was the only one who came on the shore of the Netherlands, and he wondered where are the others, and they are back already.
I mean, the funniest story is probably the MTV Unplugged show where Liam sort of
where he's in the balcony,
has a sore throat, but then he's heckling his brother from stages. I mean, just willingly blowing this massive chance of becoming huge in America, you know, and I mean also effectively ending their career in America.
That was always fascinating. The story, the thing with America and Oasis. They were always very close, and then something very strange and catastrophic happened.
Yeah,
like the tour in '95 also when Noel. Flew back home. What was the reason there? Was another fight with Liam, I think. But at least
this is when he wrote "Talk Tonight."
No, that was the first time in America. I'm talking about the second or third visit to America. So it happens like in the first 4 visits to America, it happened 3 times that they split up during the tour. So I think "Talk Tonight" was. They played the Whiskey A Go-Go or whatever it's called in Los Angeles, and Ringo Starr was even in the audience.
Oh wow!
And Bonehead and Liam especially were totally on whatever drugs, and I think Noel said something like Bonehead started one song and Liam sang a different song, and they didn't know. They didn't know for 1 minute that they played different songs. They were so out of it, and then he left and wrote Talk Tonight.
There's many tours when he left. No, I mean I think the first time I saw them was in 2000, and that was already
Me too. That was
a horrible show.
Yeah. That was my first Oasis show was Vienna 2000. 1 week after Noel left, and they had this replacement guy who was okay, but you know, we paid for Noel. You know,
It's pretty much.
I'm a Noel man. Noel is my favorite. So we had problems with the connection. But I think we were at the tour in the year 2000 when once again Noel left the band.
Yeah, just like you now left. I think this is just a big stunt that you're pulling here.
Yes, of course.
You just wanted me to see what it feels like if the chief leaves the band.
I wanted a replacement for myself.
Right.
I wanted someone else. I
Definitely.
wanted you to go off and form a BDI kind of podcast. To sabotage your career with a terrible podcast. What do you think of BDI? I think that they weren't really right.
I don't think very highly of his solo career.
Yeah, unfortunately me too. Yeah. I think Noel's career is respectable.
Yeah,
not too good. It's not like world shattering.
No,
but it's okay. It's cool.
Yeah, and he's trying things out. You know, Liam just very much plays it safe. You know, gives the people what they want. And now with the cover of his new album, what's this? Again, has a very idiotic title.
They're all idiotic. They're all like Twitter headlines.
Come on, you know it's called, right?
Maybe. So I never bought one of his solo albums even.
Huh?
I never bought one of his solo albums. I streamed them on Spotify.
Yeah, and that's more than enough. I mean, they're all ridiculous.
They're like tribute bands, like Oasis.
Yeah. And Oasis were actually a very funny band.
Yeah, they were better than Liam Gallagher.
I much prefer Oasis. That's just a hilarious band.
Yes.
Yeah,
the 2000 tour. I just wanted to say, I think the last thing I said before we were disconnected was the replacement guitarist was okay at everything. You know, the songs sounded like Oasis songs.
Yeah.
Except Acquiesce and things like where Noel should sing, which was also strange. But it was cool. That was a cool moment because the audience had to sing Noel's parts on songs like Acquiesce. That was cool. But all in all, you know, you paid for Noel. You know, you wanted to see Noel. Yeah. It was the first Oasis concert, and then Noel again leaves us. Yeah.
I have to say also, I saw them at a festival in Germany. And the crowd really didn't like them, and I had that experience a couple of times that they were not good festival bands because they didn't want to win their audience over.
Yes,
you know, they were very good when they were like devotees, you know, like us. But if there was a band that wanted to see Incubus or Pearl Jam after them, then you know they never really connected. So there was a very strange vibe, and people threw toilet rolls on stage, and it was not, in my mind, this was like going to Knebworth, to Main Road.
Oasis was always, especially outside of Britain, like a cult. You were like you were in a sect, and the people from the other faiths they thought you were kind of strange, and the music is strange. And in Austria, I don't know. You're from Bavaria, from south of Germany.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was like that, but usually Bavaria and Austria are pretty similar. But in Austria, Oasis never were really big or popular. In school, I was the only Oasis fan in my class. Yeah. I didn't have friends with whom I could go to the concert, so I went alone to those first Oasis shows. And this first concert with the replacement guitar player, they played in the big arena in Vienna, which holds like 14,000 people, and like 3,000 came. So it was a bit.
It was not sold out.
Yeah, no, not 3,000 people in a 14,000. Yeah. It was. It must have been a pretty big disappointment for the band. Yeah. And after that, they only came back to Vienna once. Then they played 4,000 people arena, and I think it wasn't sold out either. It was also like 3,000 people.
Yeah. There was like when I'm from Munich, so they always played like manageable halls. I was supposed to be at that concert where Liam had his teeth knocked out. That was a major letdown. I mean, mostly for him, but also for the couple of people that bothered to show up.
But that's also a sign that they were never really popular in Germany and Austria. They even get their teeth.
By the mob, I think he claimed at the time that it was like he was battling some mafia gangsters or so.
Yeah, of course.
I think he tried to turn this into a heroic story of self-defense. Then
always. And that you had personal encounters with them as well.
Yeah, many.
As a journalist.
Many.
How often did you interview them? And Noel?
I think I had Noel. I had 4 times now. Yeah. Only this year was my 4th interview with him. I had Liam 3 times. Had Andy Bell once.
Cool.
And that was it. A couple of times over the years.
And anything special during the interviews or?
There's many I mean, first of all, it's like one of the few artists when, I do this on a daily basis, so, you get used to it, but this is like, you really do get starstruck from the beginning, but then they both make you feel very comfortable, I have to say. Like, Noel is he's hilarious, whenever he says, he's like the guy, you'd probably die for laughter if you went out for drinks with him. He just wants to entertain you. He doesn't give any lousy answers. If he knows that you come prepared, he just, he honors that. And
I think that's also a reason why in the end Oasis were bigger for me than Blur, because of the interviews, of the personality of Noel. He could be a great comedian.
Yeah, of course he should. He should write pieces for the Guardian on a weekly basis. Instead of making music. Although I'm quite fond of his solo output. But yeah, very very charming. I once even I had him on the phone, so I wasn't really in person with him this time. And at the end of the interview, I felt confident enough to birthday greeting to my son. And I said, what can possibly happen? Just hang up the phone and that's it. So he did, and it was like the funniest message ever, and he just really took the time to come up with something really funny and smart, and this would be a great gift one day.
Great.
Once he's of age. So there were always, just good guys. Even Liam, I think the first time I saw Liam was this, in person, in the flesh, was, you probably remember this iconic scene in the otherwise forgettable Little by Little video where he just appears in this white.
He helps Robert Carlyle, I think.
I think so. Yeah, who's a homeless guy. I think. So he just appears like Jesus Christ, in this white overall. And I had a similar experience because I think it was a BDI show, and this is when I had Andy Bell for an interview, and we were in the corridor of a hotel, and all of a sudden the elevator doors that we were sitting across of jumped open, and Liam came out, and he was in a white bathrobe, because he just came from the sauna. and then
it's not very rock and roll style. You wouldn't imagine Liam to go to the sauna. It's like with most of those guys, when they drink out of a whiskey bottle, it's apple juice, and this is of course apple juice and not beer.
Of course.
Yeah.
Like Dean Martin.
It's all just.
And I remember that he remembered me. He just saw me, and it must have been years until we saw each other last. And he remembered me, and I think we talked about cats at the time. And then he said, "Well, hey, you're the guy with the cats, right?" And then he said, "Well, I'm into dogs now, And then he showed me pictures of his phone, he had a dachshund.
Is it a dog from the Songbird video?
No, it's not the one. It's a really small dackel, like a dachshund. And he says that he's breeding them now. And of course, he will be the most successful breeder of this kind of animals.
So he goes to the sauna, he breeds dogs. We learned fascinating things about Liam. I never expected it's going into this conversation to find out.
Yeah, you are aware he has this skin disease, right? Psoriasis, I think it's called.
No, didn't know that.
So he has this is also why he he needs to go to the sauna because he tends to sweat a lot, and this like causes an irritation of the skin that he has it all over his body. But he discussed that many times. It's not like a private matter that I'm talking about here. So this is yeah.
But so he breeds dogs. He goes to the sauna, and he's of course owner of a fashion label. Right now, I'm wearing a jacket by.
That you are happy to sponsor, yeah.
Yeah, Noel won't be happy because he's not a fan of the fashion company. I think. I think that was one of the reasons for the breakup. One of the minor reasons was that Liam wanted to make promotion for the company during the tours or something like that.
I think he wanted his ads on the tour program or so, and Noel said that's he's drawing a line there.
Yeah, of course.
One of the many reasons.
What do you think was the big main reason? I personally think that Noel just searched for something to leave the band finally because he wanted to progress. So I don't think it was like it was told to the media that they threw shoes at each other or plums or whatever it was, or destroyed guitars backstage. I mean, some of this probably happened too, but I think Noel was just waiting for a reason to leave so that he could make this more interesting music.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, he was trying that with the last Oasis album, but it was also like the first one that, there was, I think it was ever since the first record since Morning Glory where the lead single was not number one. He was it was still number 3, but then it like quickly went down the charts. And I think the single after, which was
Falling Down,
and it was not. It was I'm Out of Time.
I'm Out of Time. Yeah,
that was like that broke the string, the consecutive string of Oasis top 10 hits in the UK. So he just knew it's the time is over, and he must have felt that for many years to come. And I think he just felt like now we're still headlining. Once we're second in the billing, I don't want to become there. He should have quit a lot before. I think he was very much aware of that. And then it was probably just one more fight when he just said, "I've had enough."
I think he said in the foreword to this biography. What did he say? That's one moment. He said something like that. What you just said about when they are going to split up. He said something like. When we are going down, when we're not successful anymore, I forgot it, but it was something like that. What you said, and he said that in 1995 that he doesn't want the way down. He doesn't want the long way down.
Yeah. So ideally, I mean, what do you say? What do you think? What would have been the ideal? I mean, I think we all agreed this was not the ideal time to split up.
I mean, Dig Out Your Soul was better than the 2 albums before, in my opinion, or the 3 albums before, maybe. But still, it wasn't. If I'm honest, after Be Here Now would have been. Then they would have been really. I mean, they are legends and they are one of the biggest British bands of all time, but they would be so much more like a mythological, like Led Zeppelin or the Beatles or something. Had they split up after Be Here Now?
But I think they should have split up before Morning Glory, right? Because
okay. Like the Sex Pistols, one album.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, they had 2 albums, but I mean, nobody really likes Be Here Now. I mean,
I like it.
Had they quit? Huh?
I like it.
It's also, but of course it's far inferior to the 2 records.
Yeah, but it's like a trilogy, and I think it needed this 3rd album for them so that it's like a full circle. I think they. Well,
I'm not sure. I mean, I defended it for many years, but it's like just. I mean, when you look at the bigger picture of how the world sees Be Here Now, hardly. Had they quit after Morning Glory, after the Knebworth shows that are now finally being released, strangely 25 years later, they would have just remained perfect. What keeps the legacy of the Beatles or the Sex Pistols alive is just whatever they put out was at least very good, if not sensational. And there are some songs on Be Here Now that are definitely, not sensational and not even very good.
But the craziness of it, the reasons why it's a lousy album also make it spectacular in a way, because it's like a big failure in front of 10 million people. It's like big story.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's in a way, if you want to keep comparing it to the Sex Pistols, then it's maybe like, it's just this bizarre appendix, like the Great Rock and Roll Swindle, you know, this outrageous soundtrack to this a strange movie.
I never saw the movie, but I had the soundtrack for a very long time since I'm 10 years old. And the first track is, of course, Malcolm McLaren narrating.
This is Malcolm McLaren.
And it was also, when you don't know the movie to it, it's wow, what's that? That's a Sex Pistols record.
It's like, I mean, this is a brilliant move in itself, you know, to change the world, and then the next thing you do is make a parody out of it.
Yeah.
It's a bit like Gremlins 1 and 2, if you're familiar with the Gremlins movies.
The first one, yeah.
The second one is just the same. It's just a response to the first. It mocks the first one. So, but we're not talking about. We could keep on talking about
Gremlins podcast. But you think after Knebworth they should have split up?
There was just no bigger shows. You know, this was definitely their peak. There was. Be Here Now still has like great songs. You know what I mean? Is an outstanding song, but maybe it shouldn't have been a whole album. The whole album was just too bloated, and they would have just remained perfect, you know. And then you go out at the highest possible high, and that's it, you know. And there's nothing that tarnishes your legacy, you know. Even if you combine the greatest songs from all the following albums after Morning Glory, it still doesn't add up to an album that is as good as the first two. So, you know, I think that's the whole magic. This is why we cannot comprehend the Beatles. It's just because it was flawless. There was nothing bad about it.
Yeah, of course, Be Here Now had flaws, but you know, in my opinion, this is the trilogy, because it's the original lineup. Of course, they changed Tony McCarroll to Alan White, but, you know, just a drummer. But my very, very favorite lineup is the lineup with Tony McCarroll. You know, they always say he's a bad drummer, but he was perfect for that record, in my opinion. He was a great drummer. And the Alan White was also okay in the beginning, but as soon, you know, that's why I say Be Here Now is still okay. But when Jam Archer joined and Andy Bell, it became a different group.
They were just too good.
There were 3 lead guitarists. And it's also because of that, played less and less lead guitar and sang more and more. And I don't want either of those things. I want him to have at maximum 1 song per album and to play lead guitar all the time. That should be his role, I think, in Oasis.
There were also, I mean, there were many ways. I mean, there were, of course, those are great musicians, Jam Archer and Andy Bell, for themselves, but they were just too gifted, you know. You needed a guy like Bonehead.
And they were also nice, good-looking persons, you know.
Yeah, they were too good-looking.
Yeah, the lineup, they looked like models, like a casted group, like Monkeys, like a Monkeys version of Oasis.
And they dressed up as models. If you remember the shows they came with, Standing on the Shoulder of Giants, they were all they had these denim uniforms, and they were just dressing up. When before, you know, Liam came on stage with his pajamas.
Yeah, it became a bit like Guns N' Roses, like fake rock and roll fashion, and the magic of the look of the initial Oasis. That was the magic. That Bonehead was fucking ugly, and that they wore, you know, those flannels and didn't give a fuck.
It was just, you know, he was the
authentic in a way.
He was authentic. He was very, very much needed. Also, the drummer were needed to, you know, to convey this myth of them being the working class, because Liam obviously was too good looking, Noel was too much of a genius, but they needed these other guys that looked like everyone in the pub. You know, if a guy like Bonehead is in the biggest band on the planet, so can anyone.
Or Gixie, you know, Gixie, when he played bass, he looked like he's asleep. You know, it was like excitement, like I'm the bass player in a rock band. The cool thing about Oasis was that they're so lazy.
Didn't give a fuck.
That was the cool thing.
And it became too professional after that. They needed, you know, to be to still be with one foot in the pub, you know, in order to live up to their image.
Yeah, so that next week or something like that. Well, we're recording the video in early November, but in mid-November the Knebworth CD and vinyl set comes out.
Yeah.
So that's in a way the perfect appendix for you, for Oasis.
I think so. Yeah. I was not a big fan of the. I mean, it comes with a documentary.
I haven't seen it yet.
I was not a big fan of that because it just mostly. I mean, they show themselves as the band of the people. So they mostly talk about the fans. You know, it very much puts the spotlight on fans and how hard it was to get tickets. And I just felt like, bring on the guys. You know, I want to see the music. I want to see the show. I'm a fan myself. It's like, probably people that watch this video now will feel the same. You know, why I'm listening to these guys.
Faced some technical difficulties again, but now we're back for a last question or a last thing. My opinion on the whole NAPPA thing is a bit negative because I know bootleg versions of it for many years now, and I never thought that those were particularly good shows. How do you feel about the shows themselves, the concerts? I always thought that the main road shows were better, and maybe so also on an emotional level, because Manchester City football stadium and so on. To me, those were the big climax, and we already had the There and Then VHS at that time, and I'm not sure if I will, but maybe I will get surprised by it. But
I think it's better than you think. I also agree that the main road shows should have been released at the time. The whole thing should have been released at the time. Whatever comes out now, or could possibly come out now, should have been released at the time.
Yeah.
This was, I never understood that. And I kept asking Noel for like, I don't know, 13 years now, like, when will this ever be released? It's known that this was filmed, and then he also blamed like technical difficulties. Once he said they just they thought they would still go bigger and then release something, and they felt like this was just too much, that would weigh too heavily on their shoulders, and but they just missed a chance. I mean, not only Oasis ultras like us are gonna buy that now, but back then this would have sold millions. This would have been familiar to millions. And not this god-awful live document that they put out. Terrible. This was just bad from beginning to till the end. There was
So okay, then I'm looking for. I just have to look forward to it, to the NAPPA thing. And it can only be better than I kind of expect it to be. So it can.
It's getting better, man.
Yeah, it's getting better, man. Yeah. So maybe you just said to me you're in Vienna in a few weeks.
I hope so. I do hope so.
So then we will meet up and drink a couple of pints. So thank you very much. And
I always wanted to say this. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
All right. See you soon, Stephan. Take care.
Ciao.